Hi guys, my name is Elise. I am the creator of Solara, and today I'm bringing you a video of the 5 foundations of the aquatic athlete. Now, I am a yoga and Pilates teacher, but also a exercise physiology student, and I have a passion for ocean and aquatic sports. So I surf, I freedive, and I love swimming as well. I want to deliver these mobility programs to aquatic athletes to enhance flow, nervous system regulation, and just overall mobility, feeling good in the water. We're gonna go through the whole body, and I'm gonna walk through, first of all, just how to connect to these 5 areas of the body, but also as a exercise professional, how to assess these areas and notice if there's any limitations in these areas as well. We are starting at number 1, the hip and pelvis alignment. So I'm going to get you guys lying on your back. Supine position. Come and lie down, find a comfortable spot on your mat. And what we're going to do is, first of all, come into the Pilates rest position, which looks like this, kind of like you're preparing for a glute bridge. My feet are a little bit further away from my knees, and I'm placing my hands on my hip bones. And what we're going to do is pretend your pelvis is like a bowl of water. We're going to rock the pelvis forwards and backwards. So kind of sticking our bottom back, digging our sit bones into the mat, and then we're going to tuck our tailbone between our legs. And it's kind of just like this shifting movement of the lower spine and the sacrum, kind of rocking up and down over the mat. What we're doing is we're bringing our pelvis into anterior and posterior tilt. And I like to do this, first of all, to just warm up, but also it's very helpful to see how a client's pelvis moves and how connected they are to be able to control their pelvic tilt. This can show a lot to do with lumbar spine, SIJ movement, so sacroiliac movement, and also just general awareness of posture. This is also gentle core activation as well. So I'm kind of drawing my belly button into my spine for a little bit of core activation, and then lengthening through the abdomen in my anterior tilts. Cool. We're going to bring our feet together and butterfly the knees open. You can have your palms open next to you. What we're doing now is we're sending our breath towards our pelvis. This is literally just for opening up the hips and lengthening through the pelvic floor. If you've never done pelvic floor muscle training, then totally just forget about that part for now. All we're focusing on is just lengthening through the hips. With each exhale, you're going to drop your knees just 1 millimeter closer to your mat. Sending the breath down to the pelvis. And on your exhale, see if the knees can sigh away to the floor a little bit more. Got some lovely nature sounds going on around us today. I'm in the beautiful sunny Adelaide. I'm here for an exercise physiology conference, which I'm super keen. And it's given us some lovely sunny weather today, which is great. Okay, so my hips are feeling a little bit more open now. We're going to close the knees, come back to our Pilates rest position. We're going to transition into some glute bridging. So place the palms face down on your mat. We're going to ground through the soles of the feet, tuck the tailbone, peel the spine up 1 vertebra at a time. So this is incorporating pelvis alignment, but also we're gently coming into a bit of thoracic awareness, which I will go deeper into later on. Tucking our tailbone, peeling up 1 vertebra at a time. And now what our focus is for this one is keeping our hip bones straight. So imagine you've got a glass of water balancing between your hip bones. That wants to stay nice and steady as you're lifting up. So you'll notice some people who are trying to gain awareness with their pelvis area, they might be a little bit wobbly. If you're coming back from a hip or knee injury, this is very common as well. So what we're doing is we've got that platter and we're keeping it as steady as we can. Lifting and lowering. If you want to increase the challenge here, you can add a ball between the knees or a band around the thighs for a little bit of deeper core activation, as well as a little bit of glute med activation as well. Things we want to watch for in our glute bridge as well is flaring open of the rib cage, okay, so things like this, or doming of the abdomen, or curvature of the lumbar spine as well, if you can see that there. So what we're going to do to cue that, draw belly button to spine, we're going to draw the rib cage in, and we're going to kind of engage through the glute muscles as well. That's going to help a little bit with pelvic alignment and then lumbar alignment as well. Cool. To make this one a little bit harder now, we're going to go into single legs. So lift up in a normal glute bridge. I'll place my palms down, and then we're going to lift one leg to tabletop. We can extend it if you want an extra challenge, and then we'll return it back, and then we'll swap sides. So tabletop, extend, and then foot down. What we're doing here, same principles, is maintaining that platter nice and balanced on the pelvis. As you're changing legs especially, there will be a little bit of a tipping or like rotation of the pelvis. What we want to do is encourage your client or athlete to keep this straight with the leg changeover. I'm still working on this one as well. Woo. This also carries over into our elements of knee, ankle, and foot stability, which I'll touch on later on. What I also like to assess is standing upright postures, which is very important for our upright sports, such as surfing. So what we're going to do first is the single leg stance. I'm placing my hands on my hip bones, and what we're doing is engaging through, we'll do one foot at a time, and we're just seeing how the pelvis stabilizes it and maintains a neutral position as we're balancing on one leg. Then you can incorporate a little single leg squat. And what I would do is I would have my hands on the front hip bones, but also find a point on the back, just above the sacrum, two little bony ridges there. Also looking at posture, so am I needing to tip myself forward in order to get down on a single leg squat? Also, is my knee and ankle able to stay in alignment? This kind of ties into that later module we'll cover. Woo! So something like this, I would notice maybe there's a little bit of pelvic instability. Maybe we need to strengthen glute med to pull that knee out, for example. Next, I would do exactly the same for a squat. So we can do multiple different squat variations. We can do a narrow squat. We could do wide leg sumo squat with feet turned out. And what we're looking for is how the pelvis likes to move. So is there excessive curvature of the lumbar spine? Are we having trouble kind of finding that anterior tilt? Also just seeing the depth of what their hip mobility is like. How deep can they go in their squat? Can they come and sit down in a malasana, so a yogi squat? All of these things will track and will slightly alter depending on the demands of the sport. The last thing I will assess for the pelvis is spinal flexion and extension. I'll have my hands in the same key points. So we'll have them on the anterior ASIS and the PSIS, and place the hands on the thighs. Inhale to prepare. Exhale, we'll tuck the chin, and we'll roll down one vertebra at a time. Meanwhile, my hands will be on those bony landmarks. And we're assessing for if there's any shift of the pelvis, rolling up and down. And then I'll get them to come into extension, baby back bend as far as they're comfortable. And just see how the pelvis likes to move in those movements. So the second element is breathing. I'm going to get us back, lying on our back, supine position, Pilates rest position. Come and join me. And breath work has become quite a popular phenomenon in the wellness space, which is great. How we breathe, I believe, heavily flows into our quality of life. So in order to connect with our breath, you've probably heard people saying, breathe into your belly when you're in a yoga or Pilates class. And this is a good cue, but how can we make it better? Because breathing into the belly is just one part of our 3-part breathing chamber. And I'll tell you the other 2 in a sec. So if you're getting someone who maybe doesn't have a lot of breathing awareness or nervous system regulation, breathing into the belly can feel maybe a little bit forced. How can we make this feel more effortless and natural? Because we don't breathe into our belly naturally. I mean, personally, I don't. So what I'm going to do is actually encourage you to work your way down to your belly, because your belly is your 3rd part of the breathing chamber. So we're going to start by breathing into the upper chest and throat first. So lying in a comfortable, restful position, just take your breath into the upper chest and throat. Just notice the air moving in and out of the throat. In through the nose, out through the nose. Good. Now what we're going to do is we're going to deepen into the second chamber, which is your bottom ribs that connects to your diaphragm. Okay, so we've got our intercostal muscles in between our ribs, and the cue that I like to use is breathing into your lower ribs. And especially if someone's lying on their back, breathe into your back lower ribs, because you can actually feel that expanding against the mat after you've built some awareness around your breathing. So now I want you to send the breath down through the throat into your lower ribs and notice that expansion against the mat. Just inhaling and exhaling through the nose. Okay, great. Now we've deepened into the second part of our breathing chamber. Now we can enter the belly. So what we're going to do is we're going to send the breath from our nostrils down our throat to our back ribs, and then maybe the air wants to travel towards our abdomen. So maybe you'll notice your belly expanding a little bit. Don't force the air into the belly and expand the belly like a balloon. Allow your breath to take its time moving down the chamber. Follow the breath's movement. Just in and out through the nose. Let's go. Okay, I'm noticing my breath's getting a bit stuck. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to roll myself up to a seated position or a low kneel. And I'm going to get my hands underneath my lower ribs. I'm just going to massage close to my diaphragm. I don't know what that noise is. Sometimes the muscles around the diaphragm and the intercostal muscles, if you've been sitting a lot, I've been sitting all day, they get just a little bit sticky. And this can just create, I guess, a little bit of a locked up feeling when you're trying to breathe. So I just like to massage it, get some blood flow to the area and soften up those muscles that might be feeling a bit sticky. And then I'll try again. Try again upright. That feels a bit better already. What I'm going to do from here is that I'm going to slowly incorporate movement to coordinate with the breath. So inhale, I'm going to sweep my arms towards my ears. Cool. Everything's starting to feel open, flowful. We're good to move on. And it flows perfectly into our next element, which is thoracic mobility. And what is the thoracic mobility, you say? Well, it is the middle spine, so the spine that sits between your shoulder blades. Everything is connected. But thoracic spine, the reason why I included this specific part of the spine is because I believe it is vital for sports like surfing and freediving, because it allows us to rotate, it allows us stability through our core, which is our power centers during these sports, and it helps with our breathing, which is nervous system regulation. What else? I mean, it's the stable center, and it works in alignment with the pelvis. So I feel that these things marry together very well. Now, 4-point kneel. What I'm doing here is we're just going to start with some cat and cow to get flexion and extension of the thoracic spine. So my hands are just a little bit wider than shoulder width apart. My knees are hip width apart. I'm inhaling, drawing my eye gaze up, squeezing my shoulder blades together, lifting my sit bones to the ceiling or the sky if you're outside. Exhale, I'm tucking my chin and tailbone, rounding the sky. Inhale, lift. Exhale, round. And what I'd be doing here if I'm assessing someone's movement is just seeing how flowful and articulate they can do this with their thoracic spine. So can they do that one vertebra at a time movement? And how much range also can they get in this flexion and extension of the thoracic spine? Also, is there any pain or limitation here? Syncing this with the breath as well that we've just been warming up. Now we've done our flexion and extension, we're going to move into some rotation. So inhale, you're going to lift one of your palms up towards the sky. Exhale, we're going to twist and hover that elbow. Inhale, lift. And what we're aiming to do is rotate with our chest bone. So imagining your chest bone has a torch shining on it. We're going to move that rotate it like a lighthouse. And that head just follows where the chest bone rotates. Cool. And then we'll swap sides. Inhale, lift. Rotating with the chest bone. Exhale, thread. Noticing if there's any pain or limitations here. So for me, I really feel this behind my shoulder blades. So surfers might come to you with this sensation if they haven't been doing a lot of thoracic mobility or not stretching before or after a surf. They might tell you that they feel really locked up in this part of the spine right here. And it kind of feels like when I'm opening and closing it, it feels restriction on my breathing. So it's almost like a stitch kind of feeling. It's really important to emphasize to your surfers and swimmers especially to keep this part mobile, because it's going to help with the breath, but it's also going to help with range of movement of your shoulder, as well as rotation for looking where you're going or performing maneuvers, just depending on the sport. To make that thread the needle a little bit more difficult, you can see how they go in a lunge position. So I'm going to bring opposite foot to palm, contacted on the floor. Inhale, lift, rotating with the chest bone. Exhale, thread. And just see how this combination of hip flexion and lengthening of the pelvic floor with the thoracic rotation all blends together. Along with breathing, of course, you can also incorporate the glute bridge and the roll down that I included for pelvic and hip alignment. Whoa, hello bird. To assess thoracic spine mobility, because it's that articulation of the spine. Number 4 is scapula setting. And your scapula sit like 2 discs on either side of the thoracic spine. And what we're doing with each movement, they kind of move in and out, they move up and down. What we want to do is create awareness and control with these bones, because essentially when they're set right, it helps us create the most efficient shoulder range of movement and power. I'll show you mine here in a few ranges of movement. And you might notice that they move around a little bit. I am working on control of these areas. So the easiest way to connect to our scapula is to get people lying in supine. So come and lie on your back with me. Pilates rest position once again. You can get them holding a Pilates ring or really just anything in general, a 1 kilo weight, something to provide feedback as we're going to be lifting and lowering. So what your scapula is really trying to do is, if they're lying flat on your mat like this, as you lift your arms up, they're going to open slightly. And as you bring them down, they're going to come back together towards your spine. So I'm lifting and I'm lowering. And a cue that really helps with scapular setting is pull your shoulder blades down and together. So down away from your ears and squeeze them together. When you are ready to progress, we're going to move into 4-point kneel position. And a lot of people, if they haven't done scap setting before, a scap push-up in 4-point kneel might look like this, bending of the elbows and kind of sinking of the chest. What we're aiming to do is our arms are going to be staying straight the whole time. What we're doing is we're kind of just lifting and lowering our chest chamber using our shoulder blades. Pushing away. Lift and lower. And lift and lower. And once again, during the lift, the shoulder blades are opening up, protracting, and as I lower, they're retracting back together. Lift and lower, just like that. When you want to make it more challenging, you can come into a plank. Bugs. And we'll do the exact same principles. So lift, push away, and lower. Lift and lower. And lower. If you'd like to add some single arm stability, we can go into bird dog arms. So I'm planting one palm and the other one lifts as I draw my shoulder blades down and together. So really trying to maintain our scapula, staying in the same spot the whole time. And really, there's no way of really knowing if your scapula is staying in the right place unless you have a mirror. So I highly recommend having a mirror behind you, having two mirrors, and having someone stand upright, do these toy soldier movements, various shoulder range of movements, and get them to actually have a look in the mirror of what their scapula is doing during these different movements. That's really the best way to do it, because if I'm just going like this, I really have no idea of how the scapula are moving. And that is because it's quite hard to feel the scapula ourselves intrinsically. And the final element is knee, ankle, and feet, which, as you can imagine, is very important for our sports that require balance, such as surfing, but also for creating efficient power and speed during swimming and freediving, where our feet are actually really important during these sports. First of all, I'm just going to warm up the feet. So I'm going to come down into a downward facing dog position. Bring down here, bringing the palms open a little bit wider than the shoulders. And then I'm bringing the feet about hip width apart, lifting my sit bones up towards the ceiling, lifting my heels, or taking a big bend in the knees. And I can pedal the feet up and down, just stretching out the arches of the feet. I can also take my feet out wide to the edges of my mat and do some nice big crouches to warm up the lower limb. Really just any other intuitive movements that help your client connect to the feet and ankle. The next one I love is the Yogi Squat or the Malasana. We're stretching out the entire lower limb, but we're also opening up the thoracic spine a little bit too, which is helpful. This feels really nice for lengthening through the arches of the feet, the Achilles, the gastrocnemius, or the calves, as well. It's really good for our knee mobility as well. So I do almost like a little windshield wiper motion just to get everything warmed up. This feels really good in the hips too. You can also lift, you can use your fingertips on the ground and lift your heels up and lower. This is really good for strengthening the arches of the feet. This Malasana is also very helpful for connecting to our pelvic floor as well, but if you haven't touched on that previously with a practitioner, don't worry about pelvic floor. I also love getting my clients in some more unique positions. This mobility exercise is not originally from me. I got it from Holistic Pro Health, so I'll leave his links down below. What this exercise incorporates is our anterior oblique sling, which goes from this hip flexor across our abdomen to our opposite shoulder. Into a seated position here, our feet are slightly ahead of our knees. I'm planting down one of my hands, my other one crosses over to the opposite foot. Inhale, I'm going to lift, creating like a rainbow shape. Exhale, lower. Inhale, lift. Exhale, lower. And what I'm doing is ensuring no flaring through the rib cage, maintaining control through my knees. So imagine I'm holding a Pilates ball through the knees. If you find someone's knees are really wobbling, then you can actually place a Pilates ball there for some feedback. and activation of the glutes. This one I found is really good also for shoulder mobility because I'm balancing on one upper limb, which is awesome. Cool. So lastly, I'm going to touch on feet. And this strategy I learned through a combination of sources, but the one that comes most prominently to my mind is the Women's Health Collective. So I'll tag them down below. Is kind of like a toe scrunch, so it's like a foot wave. What we're doing is articulating the arch of the foot from the heel to the middle arch down to the toes, and we're kind of grabbing, like picking up some grass, and then we are flowing through the same movement, finishing with the toe. So it's kind of like this movement with the foot. Great for sports that require that strong proprioception, such as surfing, where pressure on the board heavily dictates our movement. You can swap directions, so we go whoop, spreading the grass away. And let's just finish this little learning episode with 3 deep breaths together. Find yourself in a comfortable position. Inhale through the nose, using our 3 chambers, and exhale away. Inhale through the nose, using your 3 chambers, and exhale away. Final inhale, and let it go. The bugs are coming out. So I'm going to wrap it up here. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you think of Solara's 5 foundations of the aquatic athlete. If you found anything interesting or there's something you would like to be added in, please comment down below. I'd love to hear your feedback, especially if you are an aquatic athlete yourself or a health professional. My name is Elise. Feel free to DM me on Here with Solara. Follow me on Instagram at Here with Solara. I've also got Facebook. You can find me at Solara. And if you have any inquiries, herewithsolara@gmail.com. I look forward to working with you very soon, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye.